Good afternoon. Want to welcome everyone here, and at this time I'd like to call on our Vice Chair, David Mathis, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We want to welcome all of you today. Those of you that are here individually, those of you that are here to maybe speak, any organizations that are here, and any media that might be with us today. We welcome you. At this time, if there is any objection to approving the minutes as presented, hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Approval now. Any objection for approving the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. I want to remind those of you that will be speaking today to be sure and speak into the mic because we have people online who will be watching and listening, and we want to make sure that everything you have to say is logged into our minutes. I have some things that I want to share with you. First of all, the state board had a wonderful orientation yesterday because we have some wonderful new members serving us on the State Board of Education. And I want to thank the State Department staff and especially Rebecca Hines for a great orientation. Superintendent Weaver, they did a wonderful job, and of course you joined us too, and we appreciate that greatly. We do have new members on the board, and at this time some are seated with us and some are seated in the audience waiting on everything to clear. First of all, Cliff Warren, who is from Colleton County. Raise your hand, Cliff. Cliff's sitting here. He's with the 14th Circuit. In our audience is Dr. Rosa Dingle from Sumter, South Carolina, and she's the 3rd Circuit. Joey Haney from Union County, the 16th Circuit, and of course Tony Vinson is here. He's a new member, but I believe that he has been sitting in on some things already. He's the 10th Circuit, but we want to welcome them to the board. The board is now completely filled. So you will be seeing everyone before you, and we're really appreciative all their giving of their time and their talents to serve here. We also want to remind our board that your mileage papers are on your desk, so make sure that you sign those. And also, we're going to be celebrating Teacher of the Year on April the 24th at 12 noon, and you have gotten an invitation to that, and certainly we would welcome you to be a part of that. So if you have received it, we would like for you to RSVP for us. This is April, believe it or not, and April is sort of associated with spring season. It's sort of a time of renewal and rebirth in nature, which can also be seen as a metaphor for personal growth and transformation. April is a time to set intentions, plant seeds for future growth, and let go of what no longer serves us. There's also a spiritual awakening and growth in April. April is seen as a month for introspection, reflection, and connecting with one's inner self. You know, America's first astronauts were announced by NASA April of 1959. Think about that. The first Webster Dictionary was copyrighted by Noah Webster in April of 1828. And the Titanic sank on April 1912. And then the Revolutionary War in America began in April of 1775. So many things in our history book happened in the month of April. The energy of April encourages us to embrace change, evolve, and move forward with a positive mindset. April is deeply rooted in the natural rhythms of the earth, symbolizing the awakening of nature and the promise of a new season. The blossoming of our flowers in April represent growth and beauty and the potential for new beginnings. Guess what? April's birthstone is the diamond, and it has strength, clarity, and qualities. So for those of you that are thinking about getting engaged in the month of April, there's a lot of strength, clarity, and quality in that diamond that you'll be giving. This became April Fool's Day today, and I read a lot of people on Facebook were running for governor. Don't think anybody on your board is anticipating that, but I noticed that a lot of people put their things on Facebook about running for governor. We'll see how many times that was. There's going to be a really well-represented group of people if all of those are true. This is World Autism Awareness Day and Month and World Health Day. It's the month of the military child and financial literacy. All of that falls into our April. And April reminds us that nothing stays the same forever. Not the cold, not the struggles, and not the pain. Spring is here, and so is the opportunity to start afresh. And I would just like to say that since we weren't here on March the 26th, and we're now in April, we want to wish our Superintendent of Education a belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Well, I will keep my report brief to you all today. Really just appreciated the conversation and time to be together yesterday. On the table in front of you, staff has presented the Post and Courier article that ran in Sunday's Post and Courier, which I titled, "Keep Calm and Educate On, South Carolina's Opportunity to Lead." And Ms. Rita, we did not coordinate our remarks, but it's very interesting that you noted April as a time to embrace change, evolve, and move on with a positive mindset, because that is exactly what I am trying to exhort our education community in South Carolina to do as we consider the fact that there certainly are changes that are happening. We all see the news. We see what's reported about the Federal Department of Education, changes being made there. And so I had the opportunity last week to actually travel to D.C. On my birthday, I was meeting with Secretary McMahon and her team up there. In addition, I was joined by several of my colleagues who are state chiefs in other states, and we were simply presenting ideas that we had for how we could work constructively together to ensure that we accomplish the goals that the president has laid out in terms of returning dollars and decisions to states, but to do it in a way that ensures continuity of services for our special needs students, for our low-income students, and for students that we know rely on those federal dollars and federal protections. And so what I have tried to encapsulate in the article that's before you today is the idea that there are folks who are always going to sensationalize issues. Unfortunately, many times the media has a vested interest in a business model, honestly, that keeps controversy stirred up and maybe even sometimes creates controversy where there really isn't any. But those federal protections for special needs students, those title protections for our low-income students, those are written into federal law, and if the department went away tomorrow, those guarantees for our students would still be there. And so my commitment to the members of this board and to the general public, to our educators through this op-ed, is that we will continue to work together with educators here on the ground in South Carolina, that we will continue to work with educators from across the country who are dealing with these very same issues, and we will continue to advocate for the needs of South Carolina students to our congressional delegation and to the folks in the administration at the Federal Department of Education. So I hope that that op-ed is helpful. Please feel free to share that. We're happy to provide additional copies of it for you if it's easier to email it to folks. But I just have never been more encouraged, honestly, about the trajectory of education here in South Carolina. And that was the way that I closed the op-ed, was just talking about many of the practical things that we're doing here as a state to prioritize a focus on foundational skills and making sure that every student is equipped with that knowledge that they need to be successful, whether that's early literacy, math, at the secondary level, ensuring that our students have access to high-quality career pathways that are aligned with industry needs. So many of the wonderful things that we present on, that Dr. Ferguson presents on at the end of our meetings each month. So again, just want y'all to be encouraged to take heart. Change is never easy, and there are always bumps in the road that come along that no one can anticipate. But I think that if we keep our eyes focused on what is best for students and keep strong lines of communication open, that we can navigate this change in a way that serves our students and our educators and families well. And speaking of educators, I wanted to let you all see firsthand the wonderful representation of educators across the state of South Carolina in our 5 Teacher of the Year finalists. I had the opportunity several weeks ago to go and surprise each of these 5 teachers. So the finalists are Miranda Grice, who is a speech-language pathologist at the Lexington 4 Early Childhood Center, Taylor Carvajal, who is a teacher at the South Carolina School for the Deaf and the Blind, and she is focused on those life skills that students need to be successful. And so when I was in her classroom, she had students who were learning how to make change and do other things that will equip them for their career potential in the future. Our 3rd teacher was Terry Ivester, who is a reading coach and former classroom teacher in Anderson 3 at Starr Elementary School. Our 4th teacher is Corey Biedenbow, who is an 8th grade social studies teacher, Lexington 3, Batesburg-Leesville. And I learned a little tidbit. We have our funny pronunciations in different communities across the state, because I had always heard it Biedenbaugh, because I know people in Lawrence and Newberry who are Biedenbaugh, but in Batesburg-Leesville, it's Biedenbow. So I was thankfully connected and corrected before I had to say it in front of him. And then our final teacher was Jennifer Nelson, who is at Hampton County High School. And as it turns out, she is the very first Teacher of the Year finalist that they have ever had in Hampton County. And so that was a huge point of pride for that community, which has recently gone through consolidation. And so I think that just to see the unity coming together there in that community was just a really beautiful thing. And she is a former science teacher who now serves as an instructional coach there at that school. So we have every age level represented. We have almost all the subject matter areas represented. So I was very, very excited about that. But instead of hearing me talk about it, we actually have a little video of these teachers in their own words. It is a fantastic morning here in South Carolina as I am joined by Superintendent Nutter and Principal Harrison Young at the Lexington 4 Early Childhood Center. Today we are here to announce our 2nd Teacher of the Year finalist at the South Carolina School for the Deaf and the Blind. I am here in Anderson 3 with Principal Hatcher and Superintendent Hip. I am here today in good old Batesburg-Leesville, South Carolina at Batesburg-Leesville Middle School. We are at the home of the Hampton County Hurricanes, and I am with Superintendent Sheffield and Principal Williams, and we are about to surprise Jennifer Nelson, who is formerly a chemistry teacher here, but now serves as an instructional coach and interventionist for our 9th to 12th graders. I'm so excited to surprise her. Are y'all ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
All right, let's go. I'm looking for a Jennifer Nelson. Is Jennifer Nelson in here?
I just wanted to give hope to everyone else that thinks that because they come from a rural area and because they don't have maybe the big opportunities that people might have other places, that you can still go on and do great things. You have the support. You have some of the hardest working people ever behind them that are willing to support them on their journey.
Mrs. Grice, you are one of our 5 finalists for South Carolina Teacher of the Year. Thank you so much.
I just can't express how proud I am of not only our school here at the Early Childhood Center, but also our district. The Early Childhood Center is just a wonderful place to work, and we just love that we are taking, starting with the kids as 3K, 4K, and 5K students to get them ready for their education.
Attention everyone, Miss Carvajal, you are one of our 5 finalists for South Carolina Teacher of the Year.
Number one, I'm shocked, but it's such an honor just to represent my school. SESCB, I love my students, and I really think that I teach the most special students in our whole state.
Y'all, Miss Ivester is one of our 5 finalists for South Carolina Teacher of the Year.
Helping teachers is a passion of mine now that I'm kind of at the end of my career, and so it's the best of both worlds. I get to work with students and with teachers, so it's a true blessing.
I am here to officially
Oh my
announce
gosh.
that Mr. Beanbo is one of our 5 finalists for South Carolina Teacher of the Year.
That is awesome.
How
Thank
awesome
you all.
is that?
I'm very honored to work in the public school system in South Carolina. Batesburg-Leesville definitely is home for me, and it is awesome to be able to represent them in such a positive light like this.
Can we give them all a round of applause? And so I hope you all have saved the date for April 24th for our big unveil of the South Carolina Teacher of the Year at our gala in the garden at the Governor's Mansion. So with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Weaver. That's great. I get excited with them. So I hope that all of our members will be able to attend that for our Teacher of the Year. Ordinarily, we would move on to our parliamentarian comments, but he tells me that he's commented out as far as this board goes. They've heard from him enough. At this time, we are now in public comment portion of our agenda. Related to public comments this morning at the Policy and Legislation Committee meeting, someone came forward after to indicate that they signed up for public comment before the P&L committee, but we were not given the opportunity to provide that during the meeting. So, as chair of the P&L committee and as chair of this board, I would like to ask a motion that Mr. Newsom be allowed 5 minutes to speak during the public comment period, which is a 30-minute comment period that we have during the full board each year, followed by the other members of the public who signed up to speak at this full board meeting. So we would have I think there's 6 people signed up at this point. So we would like to have the following 6 people providing public comments at 5 minutes each, correct? Okay, and so at this time, I would like to call Mr. Newsom and apologize again for my oversight, Mr. Newsom.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, we do need to vote. Yeah.
We don't.
Okay, my parliamentarian said no, but my superintendent of education tried to keep me straight. Okay, Mr. Newsom.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Steve Newsom. I taught ELA for 10 years in South Carolina. Regulation 43170 is clear on one point. While it never defines age appropriateness in a pedagogically relevant, research-supported way, it does specifically exclude, quote, descriptions or visual depictions of sexual conduct as that term is defined by Section 1615.305(c)(1) of state law. A plain reading of the reg doesn't prohibit in schools, as some have claimed, only sexual content that meets a certain threshold of specificity, or sexual descriptions that are a certain number of words long, or even content that is age inappropriate for specific groups of students. It prohibits all depictions of sexual conduct, applying the same standard to a legal adult taking a college-level English class as a kindergartner on the first day of school. If someone challenges Everybody Poops or the Bible or a book of Shakespearean sonnets or many books on the AP literature reading list, a strict reading of the regulation would require that the board ban those books. I've shared the criteria constituting sexual conduct alongside passages from one retained book, 1984, which clearly violate the meaning of the reg, and I shared those this morning as a handout with everyone. In the lead up to the regs passage, members of the public pleaded with the board to include the rest of that section of law, which includes requirements that prohibited content, quote, appeal to the prurient interest and be, quote, patently offensive, and that, quote, to a reasonable person, the material taken as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. That language was established by the U.S. Supreme Court in the 1973 Miller v. California case as a way of avoiding First Amendment violations. By omitting it, authors of the reg led the board into a trap. Either ban important literature that nonetheless contains sexual conduct, or engage in unconstitutional viewpoint discrimination by applying other criteria. The board is taking the second path if it retains books that contain sexual conduct, like 1984, while removing books with no visual depictions or descriptions of sex, like Flamer. Because IMRC members almost never explain their decisions, it's likely a court may have to one day decide if there have been violations of the First Amendment. I wonder if the same staff attorneys who have defended the reg and who have claimed to be reviewing the text will be defending the board if that happens. In October, the IMRC took it upon itself to challenge several older classic texts, which the chair indicated in advance, speaking with the South Carolina Gazette, they would probably not ban. And several had indicated it would remove, which were all contemporary high-interest books optionally available in some high school libraries. The book which received the most discussion during a full board meeting is 1984, a book whose language the IMRC couldn't discuss at all in its meeting because no excerpts were provided by department staff. Creating a separate process for classics is in itself viewpoint discrimination under the reg. The General Assembly did not want this regulation to pass without further review, but a procedural mistake allowed it to pass by accident. Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey told the Gazette in May, quote, I would prefer they not go through. I would prefer that regulations of any type be vetted in the legislative branch before they go into effect. That's even more the case when you have significant and impactful regulations. We spend a lot of time in the Senate vetting regulations, most of which don't matter that much. Senate Education Chair Greg Hembry agreed, quote, we were all operating under the belief it would time out. Instead of delaying implementation, the department allowed an unvetted, overly broad regulation to go into effect, and we have witnessed the results. If the board removes every title challenged today, our state will have removed more books from schools than any other state in America. The only legal ways out of bad regulatory language are amending it or repealing it, or waiting for a court to determine that it's unconstitutional. Picking and choosing which sexual conduct a department staff member or board committee member is comfortable with is a violation of the regulation itself, including the regulation's explicit prohibition against engaging in viewpoint discrimination. And as bad as that language is, the state board has to change it in order to legally avoid these issues. The board's official procedure on policy rule development includes, quote, the State Board of Education shall initiate a formal review of the existing policies, rules, and regulations of the board at such a time as it is considered appropriate by a majority of the members of the board. The chair of the board shall appoint an ad hoc committee of the board to review its policies, rules, and regulations and make recommendations to the board for revisions. I urge you to delay decisions on the materials before you today until you can conduct a review of the regulation as currently written to avoid further risk of unconstitutional viewpoint discrimination in this process. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Since we're hearing your comments for the first time, it's our policy to accept your comments as information, sir. And if we have any questions or need additional information, we will certainly contact you at a later date. So thank you. Moving right along, Mary Foster. Mary, please identify yourself and who you're with.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm a parent and teacher from Beaufort County, so welcome. I can't wait to meet you. And I have closely followed your adoption and implementation of Regulation 43-170. I'm also a member of FAB, which is a Beaufort-based group that stands for Families Against Book Bans, and we also advocate for public education. I read and spoke in your review committee in defense of Half of a Yellow Sun. You have hopefully read the excerpts the complainant provided, and I'd like to read you some additional excerpts. First, I wanted to rape you and then murder you afterwards. Next, he could feel her breasts ripe yet firm through her overalls. And lastly, he would flog her to death with a rubber truncheon. He would tie her naked to a stake and shoot her full of arrows like Saint Sebastian. He would ravish her and cut her throat at the moment of climax. These excerpts are not from Half of a Yellow Sun, but are from a book your board voted to retain, 1984, by George Orwell. Frankly, retaining 1984 and not Half of a Yellow Sun would demonstrate an inconsistent and problematic interpretation of this regulation. I could share a lot about the book that I did, in fact, read, but what you should know is it's based on the Nigerian Civil War in the 1960s. Obviously, a book set during a civil war and based on real events is going to be heavy and at times difficult to read. But this book also won the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2007. It's often recommended in high school AP English classes, and it was a novel listed in the essay prompt on the 2023 AP English Literature and Composition exam. I recently spoke with a librarian, a former high school librarian, who had this book in their library, and they told me they ordered it after researching it when a student requested it. That student went on to be the valedictorian. That's who requested Half of a Yellow Sun. You are not required by this regulation to consider a book as a whole or to explore how it might serve students. However, your board rules of governance do charge you with advocating regulations that, quote, enhance the learning environment in classrooms. Learning environments are enhanced when students have access to award-winning, diverse literature that helps them understand themselves, other people, and the world better. Half of a Yellow Sun is one such book. It may not be for every student, but it is for some high school students. Removing these types of books is putting South Carolina students at a disadvantage when they compete with students across the nation who have access to these books. I would urge you to retain this book just as you did 1984. And lastly, I generally try not to engage in battles of semantics, but the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines ban this way, to prohibit, especially by legal means. That's what you're doing with these books. You are prohibiting them from being in schools with the legal means granted to you by your own regulation. Members of this board have suggested that families who want access to the books you're removing can just order them online or get them from public libraries. I would just remind you that more than 60% of the students you serve live at or below poverty level. Most of our state is rural, and reliable transportation is needed to access public libraries. Suggesting that families just head to the library or buy the book themselves is short-sighted at best, and it comes from a place of privilege many of our neighbors in South Carolina simply don't have. And now, we never get the full 5 minutes, so I'm just going to add a couple of things here at the end. My daughter Elizabeth spoke to you in January. She's a student at Georgetown University now, but when she was a senior in high school, we faced these books being challenged in Beaufort County. She spent half of her senior year, after college applications were due, I might add, fighting this effort. And we have reviewed these books. And the parent who's opposed to them has an opt-out form, as does every parent in South Carolina. This feels like such a waste of your time and energy when we have real problems in education that need to be addressed. I've taught for 27 years. If you want to talk about those real problems, I'll be here for the meeting, and I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards. And I want to thank you for your service, because I don't think most of you are here to ban books, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Taylor Simon. Taylor, welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Taylor Simon, and I am the proud owner of a local Black-owned bookstore, Liberation is Lit. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is completely tied to my mission to spread literacy and connection and empathy through the power of storytelling. And I'm just here to say that book bans are not a hoax. I like to think that I care about literacy as a bookstore owner, and I'm all about providing more access to books to kids, not less. PIT America is a national free speech organization and has projected that if you all vote to remove these books here today, we are leading the charge with the most books banned statewide within this country. Do you want to be known as a leader in the nation for something as heinous as taking books away from children? 54% of students are at basic reading level in 2024 here in South Carolina, and we rank number 42 in education. And our response is to continue to remove access to books. And if you are not concerned with improving literacy, what you should be concerned by is one parent having so much power over what all of our children in South Carolina have access to read in schools. You take one parent's word over the experience and expertise of school librarians and teachers without reading the books in their entirety yourselves. The argument seems to be that we are taking books about sex out of schools, but as April is also Sexual Assault Awareness Month, sexual abuse is not pornographic. The books you are banning are cautionary tales. 3 of Ellen Hopkins' books are included in this list today, and Ellen Hopkins was one of my favorite authors in high school. Her books touched my life and so many of the lives of my friends, and they were actually responsible for a lot of my friends actually starting to read. I remember I read the sequel to Crank, a 700-page book, in one sitting. She stood out to me for her real and honest storytelling, what many of these books here on this list today represent. Shielding our children's eyes from these topics won't protect them. If anything, we are doing them a disservice for taking away safe spaces for these young people to have important discussions with adults in their lives, whether teachers or their parents. I am not excited about our trajectory here in South Carolina. No one who removes access to books has ever been on the right side of history. And as Mary said, I believe most of you here today are not here to ban books. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Moving right along, Ida W. Thompson. Ms.
Good
Thompson.
afternoon, Chair Allison, to the board members, Superintendent Weaver, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ida Thompson. I am a retired librarian, consultant, district administrator, and 2-time past president of the South Carolina Association of School Librarians. I am also the organizer of the Black Caucus of ALA's affiliate here in South Carolina. I am a former teacher cadet instructor and instructional technology director. I share all of this so that you will understand my commitment to education, to literacy, to libraries, and to access to information and its place in our society, and the seriousness of my concern at what I see happening in our state. You talked about April celebrations. Well, April is also School Library Media Month, so we can add that to the list of celebrations today. Truly, it is a time to celebrate the many opportunities afforded by school libraries to their communities and the great work being done by library professionals every single day. But while this is a time to celebrate, I do have some concerns and regrets. I regret that I have to be here today to defend the right to read. I regret that our state's new regulation limiting free access to information in local school districts is having negative impacts in our schools and communities. I regret and I believe that this process is not equitable or justified, and it appears to have biases affecting those who choose to lodge complaints. I regret that this process does not provide defendants with equal opportunity to be heard and express their viewpoints. And I also regret that this process gives one person undue influence, bypassing local school districts, parents, and their students. Over my career, I've dealt with many instructional challenges, following a very sound and objective policy and process in my local school district. And fundamental to that process is a complete reading and review of the material in question. That is important on so many levels. It is absolutely crucial. Regrettably, that is not being done by this committee, and it undermines and invalidates a process that impacts every student, every school district, and community in this state. In my 39-year career, I've seen so many good things happen in this state when it comes to literacy, to reading, to libraries, to standards and education in general. However, so much of that good work is now being questioned. I now see a shift from free expression toward censorship and limitation. One of my former superintendents would often challenge his district leadership staff with this statement: "It is never too late to rectify an error or correct a mistake." I think we all would agree that that's sound advice. So through my observations over the last year, my interactions with students, with librarians, with community members, it has become evident that errors are occurring in the administration of this regulation and its implementation. But there's good news. It's never too late to rectify an error or correct a mistake. I urge you to listen to the voices in this conversation. Really listen. Listen to all of them, not just a few. Respect them and their opinions, their professionalism and their training. Respect the viewpoints of our students and the authority and the trust placed in their families and their communities. That is your responsibility. So, as we move further into this month of celebrations, of school libraries in particular, let's truly celebrate libraries. They matter. A free discourse of ideas matters. Differences matter. Honesty and fairness will always matter. Thank you for your time, and I welcome future opportunities to dialogue with you on this issue. I appreciate the time today, and I appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson, and thank you for your many years of service to our students. Now we go to Robin Liebenberg. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No one ever does.
Oh, well, I'm glad I'm in the group.
My advice is keep your maiden name. I'm Robin Liebenberg. I live on Hilton Head Island. I'm a working poet there, speaking for authors against book bans. I'm also a member of FAB and worked with that group in Beaufort County the last couple of years, arguing the books this particular complainant continually put before Beaufort County's school board, 92 of which we returned. Before you make South Carolina the nation's leading book banner, I beg you to reconsider the process by which you decide this without any recourse based on a handful of words taken out of context. 4 mildly risque passages in a 500-page book should suggest there might be more to the book that justifies it remain. And no one is required to read any of these library books. What service does a school library provide? Is it just for research, a quiet place for study, to hold the books you like? What a library does offer, the freedom of every child in the state to read freely from a diverse and eclectic selection. And that is what a library should offer. The opportunity for each child to discover the reading world that suits their interests, tastes, needs, unique worldview. It is not for us to judge what that is, but simply to offer possibilities. I respectfully remind you the state mandates that children read independently and for leisure. Most families cannot purchase books. 62% are at or below the poverty line. So this mandate is greatly damaged each time you ban one book. I threw my own children anything to get them to read, sci-fi to horror, comic books, recipes. I understood if they weren't into the story, they would not read, and that reading was the single most valuable skill they would need in our adult world. Their librarians were amazing allies in this, knew their interests, and fostered them. That is what parents want from their school libraries. selection, encouragement, opening horizons. In Beaufort County, well over 80% of parents strongly oppose book bans. What you are doing is neither educationally sound nor popular with voters. I can only hope you find a way to change course before you land soundly on the wrong side of history. And I would like to add, since I do have more time than I thought I would, I am a 33-year English teacher, high school. I was an AP English teacher. I know a lot of the titles that you're tackling. I taught them for years and years and years. I know sometimes the content can be tricky, and teachers and librarians are trained to figure out how to navigate that in ways that are positive and that create open discussion and interest in students, not to in any way talk them into thinking everything is okay, but to have a discussion and to explore those topics. And I think that is what education needs to be. Your students are behind here. They're way behind. Help them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie Shaw.
Well, good afternoon, Superintendent Weaver and distinguished board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I am a former educator. I was a fine arts teacher and was also certified in K through 8. I also publish a magazine and am an author myself. I would like to refute today 3 major lies being fueled by the many organizations in South Carolina. Lie number 1. Only one parent challenged these books and put us in this position. So let's tell the truth. There have been numerous challenges to remove pornographic and sexually explicit books from school libraries all across this state. In our district alone, many stakeholders have challenged and exposed dozens of inappropriate books, which led our superintendent to call for a district library audit. This led to the removal of hundreds of books from our library shelves without anyone having to challenge them. We followed SCASL's ridiculously flawed book challenge model policy, and now those crying victim are actually the ones who have been caught not doing their job. Lie number 2, you're taking away a child's freedom of speech and censoring and banning books. Let's tell the truth. Not one book has been banned. Not one student has lost a single freedom. So stop the nonsense and insidious gaslighting. American Library Association and SCASL created this debacle, forcing our state to have to deal with what's been exposed. These are the perpetrators, not those of you having to clean up their mess. Lie number 3, librarians should have full autonomy over their libraries because they are the professionals. Well, let's tell the truth. Not anymore. All professionals should be held accountable for their actions, and librarians are no different. They should not have full autonomy over their school libraries, especially now, because those who have exposed themselves as porn pushers to minors are now spending most of their time advocating for porn in schools instead of performing the duties of serious professional educators. DEI propaganda organizations have popped up all across the state. The E3 Foundation received an $8.4 million federal grant. E3 founded Pro-Truth South Carolina. SCASL and the ACLU-SC have partnered with Pro-Truth, Freedom to Read South Carolina, along with a slew of others that I have listed in a handout I will leave with you today. Each one parrots the other and strongly advocates for porn for minors. Perhaps these organizations should be investigated along with their NGOs. Remember, lies will never justify misconduct. Truth always prevails. Thank you and the Book Review Committee for your efforts to protect, educate, and do right by the children of South Carolina. I and an army of supporters across the state applaud you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our 30 minutes of public comment is up. If there's anyone else that signed up today that we ran out of time with and you have a handout, if you will please give it to Tara over here. She'll be glad to make sure that we all get a copy of that. So thank you very much. Tara's right over here. Raise your hand, Tara. Thank y'all for being here. We now move into our state board items, beginning with our Policy and Legislative Committee. The Policy and Legislation Committee met and heard 2 items for approval and 1 item for information. They were approved and placed on the consent agenda. For approval was Greenwood County School District 52, a waiver under code 859-39-160 on interscholastic activities. The second one was district request for exemption from South Carolina Code 59-1425, instructional day waiver. We also had item number 3 was for information, charter school update. Mika Childs, who's our Director of Office Education Choice and Family Engagement, Division of Strategic Engagement, came before us and gave a report on that. The report stands as a motion made from the committee. It does not require a second. Is there any discussion by the board? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Likewise. Motion carries. I'd like to recognize Dr. Johnson now to present the Educator Professions Committee report.
The Education Professions Committee met and approved 3 action items. First was the new Educator Preparation Program at Coastal Carolina University, the Masters of Education and School Counseling. Interesting tidbit that we heard this morning. There are only 7, am I right? 5, only 5 counseling programs in our state. So we welcome having another because we're always needing good school counselors. Another item was Teach Charleston additional certification fields. Teach Charleston is an alternative certificate program. And the third item was additional certification fields for Teach Right USA. It too is an alternative certificate program. These action items were approved and placed on the consent agenda. We also heard 3 information items. The first was the 2023-24 annual report on certification through American Board. The second was the 2023-24 report on individuals certified through the South Carolina Teach for America program. And the third item under information was the 2023-24 annual report on certification through Teachers of Tomorrow. That concludes my report, Ms. Allison.
Okay, the report stands as a motion made from the committee. It does not require a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Likewise. Motion carries. The Standard Learning and Accountability Committee did not meet and have no report today. We move to our Instructional Materials Review Committee report. I recognize Dr. Hanley to present that report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Instructional Material Review Committee met on 13 March at 1 o'clock via Microsoft Teams and considered 10 materials. All 10 materials had been reviewed at the Beaufort County Local Board, and Beaufort County has requested that all of the materials that have been previously reviewed in the review that was done prior to the passage of 43-170, that they be taken up directly by the State Board of Education instead of by their local board. Let's see. I will note that the 10 materials were considered obtained descriptions of sexual content as defined by 43170 and South Carolina law. And the staff sent each of you copies of the reports and recommendations on 25 March via email. The reports have been uploaded to the IMRC webpage on that same day. The first material was Collateral by Ellen Hopkins. The second one, Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Moss. The third, Half of a Yellow Sun, and I will not try to pronounce that person's name. Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. Identical by Ellen Hopkins. Kingdom of Ash by Sarah Moss. Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. Lucky by Alice Siebold. And Tricks by Alice Hopkins. Again, after hearing the complainants review, then testimony by people for and against removal of the materials, the committee voted unanimously on each of these materials to have them removed from all South Carolina public schools.
The report stands as a motion made from the committee. It does not require a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, please.
Dr. O'Shields?
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Want to start. Timing can be good. This was devotion from last night. Our words have power, either to build up or tear down. Harsh, condemning words can damage a fragile soul, bring anger and retribution, and cause division. They can destroy a witness to the world and repel those who would have come to one source of strength. On the other hand, words spoken in love can give hope to the hurting, heal emotional wounds, and give strength to the weary. What my discussion points are intended with this fully to each and every one of you. It is understood. In looking at this, it seems that we have 46 counties, and yet everything's coming from one of them. And I'm just confused a little bit by that. I mean, 45 out of 46 is a larger majority than 1 out of 46. But that's only me pontificating. So I decided to do an autopsy, because this is really what we're doing, an autopsy. I asked our librarians, how many of these books do we have? I want to know the number of copies, I want to know the dates they were acquired, and I want to know the number of times they've been checked out. We only have 5 of the 10 at Clinton High School. Last night at the Telegraph Club, we have 2 copies. It was acquired on 5/19/2022. It's been checked out 3 times by the same student each time. We have Empire of Storms, 1 copy. It was purchased 6/16/2020. It's been checked out 4 times. We have Kingdom of Ash, 1 copy, purchased 6/16/2020. It's been checked out 3 times. We have Living Dead Girl, 1 copy, purchased 3/31/2010. 2010. It's been checked out 26 times. We have Lucky, 1 copy, 8/29/08, 22 times. I even went back to find out when was the last time it was checked out. Lucky, last time it was checked out, 4/26/2022. Living dead girl, 26 times. Last time it was checked out, 11/1/2024. I don't know about these. These aren't my kind of books that I read, nor do I personally approve of the language that is there. Puberty. This was my book. This was my book at puberty. It was a lot bigger at the time that I remembered it. It was everything you always wanted to know about sex but was afraid to ask, by Dr. David Rubin, written in 1971. 1971, I was 13. I was going through adolescence. And I came up with the idea that you really had to change clothes in PE. Literally, change clothes in PE. I then started looking at the law. We talk the law a lot, and it's important we do. We should. Because we talk about 1615-305, and it's always C. 1615-305, C. And C is important. C is important because it is the explanation of terms. But you know, if there's a C, there's likely an A or a B. So I looked at B, and B2 says, the average person applying contemporary community standards relating to the depiction or description of sexual conduct would find that the material taken as a whole appeals to the prurient interest in sex. I looked at number 3, B3. Not to the average person, but to the reasonable person. The material, there it is again, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Guys, I have spoken and I will continue to speak on the law of unintended consequences. I am not for where I think we're going, because I don't know about a lot of the librarians, I really don't. But in a district with 6 schools and 2 schools that I really look at, middle and high, I know those people. And in Clinton, I know them well, very well. I can't, in good conscience, after having done my own autopsy of what we have, I cannot and will, if necessary, be the only dissenting vote, because I think we are misreading the law. Because in that we quote C, because it's the definitions. But there's B. And it says, item 2 and item 3, taken as a whole. Now, I may be wrong, and you did a phenomenal job, Dr. Hanley, leading the meeting. But one of those authors was there. I don't remember which one. And she got on and she said that 1% of her book contained approximately all that was there as it relates to the sexualness. And again, I am not in favor of it. I personally find those pages repugnant. However, this is all I had. You understand? He was a darn psychologist or psychiatrist. And man's still living now. 90-something years old, man's still cranking. But the deal is, that was some dry reading to try to learn out who I was. Because adolescence is a difficult time. And then you magnify adolescence with abuse domestic, sexual, emotional, physical. And ma'am, I totally agree. I'm not standing on the side of porn. I will not stand on that, cannot. However, I can say that it ain't as big an issue in District 56 based on what my librarians have said, that it seems to all of a sudden have to be. And maybe I'm just wrong, and if it's another Ray Stevens, it's a me again, Margaret moment. I'll live with it. But I love y'all. You know that. Dr. Collier, I have the highest respect for you. But there are things also that I must find as superintendent, as a current sitting superintendent who deals with students on a daily basis. I teach. I left my classes today. And you're right. Whoever spoke about AP, I teach AP Euro and AP Modern History, AP Modern World. So I know that they don't follow the same scoop that others follow. And let's not get into dual enrollment. I yield the floor.
Are you yielding to me, Doctor?
I'm yielding to whoever wants to be yielded to.
Dr. O'Shields, thank you for those comments. Dr. O'Shields, since you did we're in discussion, and since you did a survey, and let me say that I appreciate that you did, and did at any time your librarians or your teachers speak to how certain books that are being discussed got on their shelves?
In talking with our high school librarian, she has books that we have pulled. We have pulled books, and books that have now been taken off or off and gone, and truly gone. We give them to the public library. But she was talking in particularly about the Moss series that in the very first meeting that we had, I voted actually against some, and only to hear her repercussions and wrath later. But the thought was getting students to read and understanding that children don't come from a cookie-cutter world. We talk about poverty in South Carolina, 60-some-odd%. Well, in Lawrence County, Lawrence 56, even with the proposed cuts of and people, and Ellen and I have talked a lot about this. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. But right now we are like 80-some-odd% of our students free and reduced lunch. Every one of our schools is probably safe for CEP, even though CEP, been told, going away, probably, likely, not really going to. Because we don't have businesses. And we have people running away from people who they can't pay rent to. And it's our job to educate all of our children, to give them the very best hope for a future that they can build something around and not have to run themselves. So, yes, she said there were these books. She said, and we do, we take them off because you hold command and you hold the throne, committee, you do. All that I can say is that for us, 5 I know about, 5 I don't know about. We don't even have them. But I'm not sure we're shooting at the right target, or if we're shooting whether our rangefinder is accurate. Because again, I think, and Dr. Hanley, only you know, because you've been cursed with this committee, the books that have come from it, I think, have come from one county. I don't know that, but the understanding is that they've come from one county. And if there are 46 counties and 45 of them ain't said nothing, one of them is, either Beaufort's got problems with its board or something ain't right. I don't know.
Dr. O'Shields,
Yes, sir.
if I may answer that.
Excuse me,
Yep.
You have to be.
I'm sorry.
You have to be.
Oh, Susan.
We have any further discussion on this? I'm sorry.
I would like to
We're in a
answer that.
vote.
If I may.
Yes,
I
sir.
would like to answer that. So, yes, the ones that have come to us so far have come from one county. However, comma, that is because that one county did several reviews. You've already heard that nearly 100 reviews were done, and they decided, but that was before this regulation passed. Now that we have the regulation, they refuse to go back and review them again under the new regulation and have asked that the materials that come back to them go directly to the board, to our board. I am hearing from around the state, and I cannot tell you how many, I am only hearing anecdotal evidence from around the state that several boards are taking up these materials, and because the complainants are getting their desired outcome and books are being removed at those local districts, there's no reason for them to come to us.
And that's fine. I just didn't know, and I knew you probably had some history that I didn't have.
Very good. Thank you both. Thank you both. Superintendent?
Yes, I just wanted to add one kind of technical point of clarification, because I know, very humbly speaking, none of us who have spoken on this are lawyers.
No,
and I am not
trust
one,
me,
I
I'm
am not
not.
one either. I am not one either, including the folks who have made comments in the public comment that actually make legal representations. But in terms of where those definitions come from in the regulation, those are actually pulled out of the criminal code. And I believe, as I recall, the desire of the board in referencing those was not to in any way criminalize the activity, but to simply point to something that was in established state law that was a valid and uniform set of definitions to really eliminate questions about this or that or the other thing. And so I think when you consider the surrounding context of that surrounding context is all part of the criminal code and was never anticipated to be part of this regulation as such. And so that's why I think that section C was pulled out to be used for definitional purposes only, because we are certainly not trying to criminalize.
No, I'm not
any of
wanting
this.
to do any more.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, could I speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have Dr. O'Shields' gift of speaking off the cuff, so I wrote down some things. This is my second meeting, but in all of my preparations for it, this was the thing that I knew most about what this board was dealing with right now. So I am new to the board, and I've been overwhelmed. We spoke yesterday. This board, and I think every person in this room, is trying to do the right thing for the state of South Carolina and for our students. I'm grateful for the encouragement to disagree and to speak up in this. And I'm so grateful, as Dr. O'Shields spoke, to the IMRC committee who are dealing with difficult and not enjoyable conversations about this. I recognize that this is a challenging process. I do want to encourage us, as many of you have said, to recognize that we're working on this together. And I don't think there's malice or ill intention. I think this is trying to do right. So a mentor in my life has helped me to reframe how I look at these things. He said, figure out what is the most loving thing to do in a situation and then do that. I've tried to incorporate that in all aspects of my life. I'm a parent of soon-to-be two teenagers, twins. I would have a problem with my kids at this point in their development reading these texts, being encouraged to or required to read some of these texts, but I don't think that's happening here. I don't think these books are being pushed on students or required of students in our communities, and if I did, I would go to my child's school and I would work toward amending that. However, my kids' experiences are different from the lives of experiences of other children. We've heard time and again the personal stories of how those books spoke to the lived experiences of young people, how they helped them to better understand their lives. And having access to these books, I think, easy access in school libraries, not through Amazon or harder measures, having access to these books, I think, could possibly save lives, help children and young adults to understand their journeys. I might not fully understand it, but I hear it. I'm trying to find the most loving path through that journey. Conservative author and columnist David Brooks wrote a book, How to Know Another Person, and he talked about illuminators and diminishers. People, he says, if you're one or the other, it doesn't make you better or worse. It's just, if you're an illuminator, you want to learn about someone else's experiences. You want to understand them better by understanding who they are and what they've experienced. Diminishers are focused on their own personal experience more so than those who are illuminators. They focus, illuminators are better understand those who view things differently and are curious about others' experiences. I'm grateful for the illuminators that have guided me in that in my life and helped me to see that my experiences might be different from yours. These text excerpts that we read, I hear how that they, by the regulations set up, given to the IMRC, they would fall into the category that allows for these removal of these books from our school libraries based on these regulations. After hearing others' perspectives and experiences, I think that does a tremendous disservice to the books that have already been removed, to the mountain of books that are still coming to us each month. Looking at these texts outside of the arc of their full stories is a mistake, in my view. I think we're doing a disservice to our schools and libraries and our communities. The illuminating, I think the loving thing is to not remove these books and encourage a better way forward for this process to play out, allowing maybe clearer parental controls of what these children are reading without limiting access so severely across South Carolina. I went and spoke to the librarian at my local high school. She's been there 20 years in that role. She's retiring at the end of this year. She said over those 20 years, she could count on one hand the number of times a parent had come to her with an issue. Each and every time, she said, they came to an amicable and respectful understanding of how they would proceed with their children and these books. 20 years, less than 5 times. A system and a procedure that worked well. I've heard from several of our board members and they have noted how this is not quite playing out like they thought it would, this process. Some are concerned, as am I, and some of you have spoken today, how relatively few voices seem to be making an awfully huge impact on our state. And I may be wrong about this, but I do not believe this is the process that we all expected with this book review process. I had come in here thinking that I might make a motion to table until this board could more fully discuss. I'm open to that. I'm not ready to make that statement today, but I just feel like we need to talk more about this process. Now that we have seen it over these last few months play out, this might be a good opportunity with 25% of the board being new in the next month or two to pause and say, is this how we want to do this? I yield.
Thank you so much, all of you who spoke today, for your input, your passion, and your truly caring. That's one thing I can say about this board, that it is truly a caring, in-depth, know my subject board. Are there any other discussion concerning this matter?
Yes, Chairwoman Allison.
Maya.
I want to speak to something different than what my colleagues have spoken to. Truly, no one wants the job that the Instructional Review Committee has. It's a tough job. It is a difficult job, and I'm sitting here and I have the 43-170 in front of me, and I think what I have heard is that there's an abundance of concern regarding the fact that a lot of these challenges have come not just from one county, but in particular from one person within that county. Just the way that the meeting schedule has fallen, the end result has been that one person has been able to challenge 10 books. And that is just a happenstance of 5 from 1 month previous and 5 from another month, and how the calendar fell. But I think it's indicative of a bigger issue. From my reading of the regulation, it's within the state board's discretion. I'm not even sure that the committee itself existed when we approved the regulation as written. My concern is possibly an abuse of the ability for the district board to cede the decision to the state board without having to go more fully through the process. That's mostly my concern. I think that these decisions should reflect the communities, the sub-communities, and what those values are. I think that's one of the most important in all the things that we could have gotten wrong about this regulation. I think that is one of the things that we got right, is a value for our parents and our communities to make decisions about what's available for those kids and those communities and those experiences. And I am concerned, not with my colleagues' ability to make decisions about the content, but I am concerned about potential abuses of a process that we intended to be fair and equitable. And I'm not certain that that's happening. And so for that reason, I'd like more clarity on, I don't think that we properly considered all of the outcomes of what would happen for those districts who had already made decisions about books prior to us implementing the regulation. And I'd like more time to parse through that. I'm looking right now at subsection 6E, which is, I think, where that information would be. I don't currently see it, and I'd like to get with our wonderful, amazing staff who probably have the answer to that very specific, probably lawyer-like question that I have about what exactly could happen. Because I know that there's they have 30 days to go through the process at the district, 30 or 60 days to go through the process at the district level. But I think we're kind of silent on what was to happen with those books that had already gone through a process prior to us implementing the new process. And I'd like time to research that if my colleagues would be amenable to it.
Right. Okay. As we speak, there is currently a motion on the floor for the consent. The report that stood as a motion, and it didn't require a second. I opened it up for discussion, and we have had such discussion. So right now, there is and taking what you have said, Mrs. Slaughter, right now we are up for a vote. So I would, if there's no further discussion, I would call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed likewise? Having not.
While the parliamentarian speaks to the chair, one of the things I do want to make clear from the words that I said, I have spoken with the person that has been against many of these books. She is a wonderful soul and has an incredibly beautiful family. We just, at this point, agree to disagree. So I do not want there to be vindictiveness or vilification. It's her right as an American. It's my right as an American. But I did not want to in any way portray her or any other person as diabolical or mean-spirited. I just felt that I needed to make that clear, because it's easy to become binary in the sense of this or that. And you know, I've spoken with her, and she and I just have agreed to disagree and do so respectfully.
Okay. I am going to abstain from voting. Therefore, each one of these items, they're not on the consent order now, and each one of these items will come up for a vote on the full committee when we get to it. That's right before we, for approval, we will take them up individually, one at a time. Okay? All right. Moving right along to our Educator Licensure Committee report, Mrs. Kreminger to present the Education Licensure Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Educator Licensure Committee met earlier today and heard 10 cases. We had 8 suspensions and 2 public reprimands. These matters were ratified by the full board. We truly appreciate the support of our general counsel that they give us each and every month. And we sadly say goodbye to one of them, Holly Haddon. She's not with us in here, but she's done such a great job with the board for so many years, and we wish her the best on her new job opportunity. And we're just going to miss her tremendously. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report.
Moving to the full board licensure report, the full board Educator Licensure Committee met and heard 3 cases resulting in 2 orders of suspension and 1 order of dismissal. The full board ELC met solely for the limited purpose of ratifying the actions of the ELC, and all actions taken by the ELC committee were ratified by the full board. Okay. Now we move into the consent order. Consent agenda. All committee items presented to the State Board for approval make up that consent agenda. The consent agenda has been distributed. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, Mathis makes the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mathis approves. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise. Okay, we are back now to the South Carolina Board of Education report, second reading on Regulation 43601 for approval. Procedures and standards for review of charter school applications. Mika Childs is our director. She will be presenting today.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
This is second reading for the regulation. The State Board of Education reviewed in December and gave first reading. Since that time, there are no substantive changes. By way of background, the state code chapter that gives the board authority to promulgate this regulation is 5940-180 regulations and guidelines, and it grants authority to promulgate regulations specific to the charter school application process and its timeline. The purpose of this proposed update is to add sections to the current regulation. The current regulation is 43601. We are adding or recommending that the board add 2 sections. One would be proposed Section 8, which addresses sponsor registration for institutions of higher learning. The second will be proposed Section 9, which addresses charter school authorizer transfer schedules. I'll briefly overview if it's desirous of the board, I'll provide an overview of the proposed changes. Okay. For the first proposed new section, sponsor registration for institutions of higher education, in our state code, 594040, item number 4, defines what sponsors or authorizers are for charter schools. It grants the capability for institutions of higher learning, commonly referred to as institutions of higher education, to register as authorizers through a process established by the South Carolina Department of Education. That process has been going on for several years. However, under Superintendent Weaver's leadership, we're trying to strengthen that process by providing better support in what we think we'll define or describe as a ready-to-authorize process. As we're contemplating ways to strengthen that process, we think it's important in the board's role to include the board in your authority to promulgate a regulation to define that process a bit more. And so this regulation does that. This proposed new section does just that. What we are doing is adding a bit more specificity on what the Department of Education will include in that registration process, and then also laying out what the timeline is for how the Department of Education thinks it will be helpful to provide clarity on how a new authorizer enters the charter school sector. This does not go beyond the scope of what is in current law, but just clarifies for the public what the process is as we're trying to improve things in the charter school sector. You'll see in the proposed new section that we establish a timeline, and we think this is important, again, just to bring clarity, expecting that any institution of higher education that wishes to register as an authorizer will do so by September 1, and that the Department of Education would make a decision to approve or deny by February 1 of the following calendar year. And with this timeline, it will allow just more clarity in how we are approaching that registration process. You'll also notice that in the proposed new section, we spell out what we think will be good policy for the board to promulgate in terms of what will be included in that registration, just so there's more clarity in how the agency is going about fulfilling its responsibility in administering this registration process.
Thank you, Ms. Childs. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of Regulation 43601?
Preminger, so moved.
Preminger. Is there a second?
Johnson, second.
Johnson. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise. Thank you so much, and thank you for your earlier presentation on our charter school situation. We are now back to our IMRC committee that has been removed from the consent agenda. So I ask for a motion on each of the removed items individually. Beginning with, the department would, who is, okay. Mr. Cathcart on number 10, collateral, Ellen Hopkins book.
Thank you, Chair Allison and members of the State Board of Education. I just want to briefly give a recap of kind of how we got here once again, with a reminder to some of our new board members of how the regulation came into effect, specifically how these 10 titles came before the board, and then finally kind of talk about the specific materials. So as a reminder, this board unanimously passed Regulation 43170. It went before the General Assembly for review. After that review was completed, it went into full force and effect of law in, I believe, July of last year. After that time, this board created its own governance to create the Instructional Materials Review Committee to handle a lot of that work, to then produce the reports and recommendations that are before this board today. to look through the materials, to hear public comment, and then to present you with their findings. In this particular instance, for these 10 materials, the Beaufort County School District sent a letter to Chair Allison, as is allowed under the regulation, in particular Section 6, B and C, where it says they may submit a written request to the State Board's chairperson within 30 days of the district's receipt of the complaint. They did that and asked that the State Board would take up these materials as well as any subsequent materials that came through that they had already reviewed. For those of you who may not have kind of known or been reviewing the situation, they went through a very intensive process before the passage of the regulation. I think one of the issues during that process was there wasn't a clear standard, which is one of the reasons this regulation was then put into effect. I do have copies of that letter if the members of the board would like to see those. Be more than happy to hand those out now or afterwards, kind of whichever is most appropriate.
Thank you for that. I believe that the new ones may not have gotten it, but I think everyone else got that copy of that letter. Thank you.
Perfect. Absolutely. And as Ms. Slaughter alluded earlier, really the reason that there are 10 rather than 5 before the board was a timing issue. And so the local board has up to 90 days to review materials. This board only has until its second regularly scheduled meeting after the receipt of complaints. So they received more complaints during that time. The Beaufort board would have had longer to consider them. This board has a slightly shorter time based on the regulation passed. I do want to just kind of briefly once again touch on, I believe the superintendent did it well, but just kind of reemphasize, so the part of the code that is incorporated with definitions of sexual conduct is criminal code. There was an intentional reason that the remainder of that was not incorporated by this board in Regulation 43-170, and that's largely because that language would then allow criminal action to be taken. This is a civil matter. This is a matter of regulating what's happening in public schools specifically, rather than kind of more general criminal statute. As a reminder, if you violate Chapter 15, Article 1615-305, there are heavy criminal penalties that may and can apply. And so I just kind of wanted to clarify that. As to the material before the board first, collateral, I want to go back just briefly talk about the board's precedent that is established thus far, which is found in the final orders on the State Board's website. So this board laid out a clear standard for what is and isn't a description of sexual conduct. Sexual conduct is clearly defined in state statute. What isn't as clearly defined, what this board has been building precedent about, is the term description or visual depiction. And I think it's important that the board shows both of those phrases. So in this case, a description would paint kind of an image, a mental image of what's going on. So it's not enough to say this action happened. You actually have to go into description that requires specific, non-generic language that actually puts the person in the place of the action and understands it's happening on stage and not off stage. In other words, it requires enough explanatory detail. If the board goes back to its final order in Re 1984 specifically, it said, while this subject material acknowledges in a handful of passages that these actions took place, these acknowledgments are too brief, too generic, and too nonspecific. That's the differentiating factor here. So in this case, in this material, specifically collateral, these passages are long enough, contain enough explanatory detail, enough adjectives, adverbs to put the reader in that place and therefore paint that mental image. And so that's the differentiating factor there. And I apologize, I'm getting a little bit too much into legalese, but please ask any clarifying questions. I'd be more than happy to answer. But in conclusion, the committee found that this material was age and developmentally inappropriate because it contained descriptions of sexual conduct. And that's
Are there any questions of Mr. Cathcart concerning this one item, collateral book?
Yes, just as a question.
Dr.
Question.
O'Shields.
Thank you very much. David O'Shields, please.
Yes, sir.
Question. We've got, and I think this was one of the things we did, is we added beyond keep it in, let it go, that there were other things we could do. Is it, and again, I don't know the law. I'm not a lawyer. Could you put it in where then if there was of age, say an 18-year-old, because 18-year-olds likely still go to school. that they could then get the right to read. Or there would be some, I'm just asking for something so that it's not good night, sweet prince for these books. No, I'm not planning to read them, but somebody might need them.
Sure.
And that's why I was asking, is that even a possibility, or is that sort of a thumbs up, thumbs down Roman emperor approach in the Colosseum?
Yes, sir. So there are 4 options before the board on certain materials. What I will say is if a material contains descriptions of sexual conduct, then this board has found in the regulation is age and developmentally appropriate for all students in the K through 12 setting. So in this case, if that is indeed this board's finding, then it would not be able to be used. There are other examples. So the board and the Instructional Materials Review Committee considered the book Crank. It found that it didn't have descriptions of sexual conduct, but that the themes were mature enough that it required a parental opt-in. So the board, if it doesn't contain sexual conduct, can require a parental consent. It can also limit to certain grades or certain ages, or it can approve the material. In this case, though, if indeed it's the board's finding this has sexual conduct, it would have to be removed.
And again, I would just ask, in that we have built a dam, and in that it appears as though the dam may unintentionally have developed cracks, what's going to be the long-term sustainability of the dam?
I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't want to necessarily predict too much. I'm a lawyer, not a seer, but what I will say is I think as this board continues to interpret, it ought to continue to follow the precedent that's been established. I think the concern would be there would be cracks in the dam if there were just kind of exceptions here, there, and everywhere. Rather, the body or the corpus of precedent this board has established, the Instructional Materials Review Committee has been following, keeps the dam from breaking, if that hopefully analogizes well.
Can this board table this and go back and look at what we have in place to see if we need to change it? Or can I table every book that comes before me today, if that's what I need to do, so that they give us some time to go back and to look at other options, for lack of a better term, to see if there are other things that we can do.
Yes, ma'am. That may be a better question for your parliamentarian, but I'll defer.
And I think what you're asking is, could a member of the board make a motion to postpone consideration of the matter pending? And that's, that's the prerogative of the board.
Can we do that all 10 at one time, or are we going to have to go through all 10 of these?
At this point, there are 10 items on the agenda now. So depending on what the motion is and what it encompasses, if there is one. Is there any questions of Mr. Cathcart while he's at the podium?
No, thank you, sir.
Let me ask a question, please, ma'am. Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Nobody is talking about this, but my thinking that the motivation behind a lot of this, and I don't know about what's going on down in Beaufort and the one person that's doing all the screening, but it was a concern that we had these books could be used as an in-house, readily available tool for anybody that wanted to indoctrinate or manipulate a child, whether it's an older student or whether it was a librarian or whether it's some other person in the school. And it would be ill-advised to have these books remain when they could be used for that purpose. Dr. Shields found out that that kind of thing isn't going on. I don't think it's going on in his school district, but in several school districts around the United States, and maybe not even that much in South Carolina. I just don't know. But that was in my forethought about what our obligation was to try to protect these children.
Madam Chairwoman, I have a question for the.
Yes, sir.
But I think it's more for the parliamentarian than.
Well, I will certainly relinquish to him.
I mean, a couple months ago, we voted on some books. And I made a comment during that time, you know, when is this thing going to stop? Because, unfortunately, I mean, when I come to Columbia, I try to work with everybody. But I actually represent the 15th Judicial Circuit, which consists of the third largest school district in South Carolina. And we're not having some of these problems. And I'm going to be honest with you. I love Columbia, especially the Gamecocks. But I do not like to come up here every single meeting and have to vote on books that nobody in my area is even talking about. So, I mean, I think, if I read it right, there was 96 books. Does that mean we're going to spend the next year talking about 5 to 10 books every meeting? I mean, I don't think, if I'm wrong, you tell me all the time I'm wrong, so tell me again. I mean, when does this thing stop? I mean, I don't think one woman or might be a man, I don't know, but I don't think somebody from Beaufort should be making me drive from Myrtle Beach up here every meeting to talk about more books. And I happen to like Dr. Hanley, and I know how much time that him and his committee is putting into this thing. I guess my question is, when does this thing stop?
Mr. Richardson, I think that's the question of the day. I would like to say, too, as we go down this road, that Dr. Hanley and his committee have done a wonderful job under a tremendous amount of pressure, as well as members of this board who have gotten a tremendous amount of pressure. But as in code, it has been established that this board would go through these and take this up. Now, until something changes, we are going to need to move forward on what we have before us. However, there are probably, because of the questions, the apprehension, the sides that have been drawn in this and everything, there probably will come a day that adjustments are going to have to be made in this type of situation in order for us to address. And you're right. I've not heard anything from my area either whatsoever. So if there's something more in this than what the regulation says, it is a shame that any area of our state would use a regulation to get their personal point across, because we need to be working for all the students and all parts of this state for the betterment of that kind of thing. So we are now again.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry.
I was
Yes.
just going to add real quick, too. Just building on some of the conversations that we had individually yesterday, too, I would love to have an opportunity for us to work between now and the next meeting with the board to just get some clarification, maybe create a conversation where we can all talk about this. So
Absolutely.
At your direction, we'll be glad to do that.
That's very good. I appreciate that, because I think there is some direction that can be given. At this time, I think Ms. Lynn has asked to speak.
And you'll tell me if I need to do something different. But I'd like to make a motion to table this action item to further.
Is your mic on, dear?
I thought I already messed up.
No, you haven't.
Such a Lucille Ball about things sometimes. I'd like to make a motion to table. Wait a minute. Okay, where? To postpone.
Yeah.
To postpone this action item for further consideration?
Consideration of the action.
To postpone consideration. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to postpone consideration for another time of this action item.
Okay, you've heard the motion made by Ms. Lynn. Is there a second?
Second,
Vincent,
Frierson.
Quite a few, I noticed. Okay. Any discussion concerning the motion?
My question is, does this include all 10 of these
All-
items? Okay.
Yes, she has made a motion that encompasses all 10 through 19. Any other discussion? Okay, all those, well, we got a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Very good. Thank
Just
you.
clarification, please, only clarification, because Dr. Hanlon and I were talking. Ms. Lynn, with your understanding, what we were doing, we were grouping the 10 at one time. Is that correct? Because at one time
That
we were
is
talking about
correct.
them. And thank you.
That is correct. And thank you, Superintendent Weaver. Certainly, I think a lot of clarification can be given and a lot of things that will help us move. And Mr. Cathcart, thank you very much for coming forward.
Glad to help.
At this time, we're going to move on for information. Our fiscal year 24-25 quarter 3 status report, Kendra Hunt. And she, I believe she left a paper on your desk earlier, right?
Yes, I
The
hope
financial.
so. I hope so. Otherwise, you can
At
share
your
mine.
desk.
That is very marked up.
And while she's coming with the financial, make sure that you sign your mileage and turn it into Tara before you leave.
And I would like to say that Maya had an appointment she had to make.
I
So
know,
that's why
she had a
to scoot
doctor's
up.
appointment.
She did, thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Yes,
afternoon,
Kendra.
Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you so much. As of today, we are in the final quarter of this fiscal year already. So you should have some printouts. I hope you have some printouts of your expenditures and remaining budget as of the close of the third quarter of fiscal year 2025. You may notice some slight adjustments made to the classified positions and employer contributions lines. If you were at the January meeting, I promised I would make a little bit of an adjustment to get you guys back in line for the projections for the remainder of the year, and we have done that. Your operating expenses for both your operations functions and your educator cases functions are in line with prior years. We see no major variances. You have ample budget remaining for the remainder of the year. I see no concerns. Everything looks fantastic on my end. Are there any questions that I can answer for you today?
No, I wish you could give my report at my house like that.
Well,
That is great.
I want to say thank you, because
course.
in any board meeting that I've ever been a part of, financials are one of those things that become a bellwether. And having this substantiates to me transparency and openness as it relates to where are we, what do we have remaining, and your clarity as it relates, looking very carefully at percent remaining, quarter of a year remaining. We're above that. Looks like we're going to be in good shape. So
are in
thank you
good
very
shape.
much.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Any other questions?
And I'd like to say I want to thank our superintendent because she's running a tight ship.
There you go.
All right, thank you
Thank
all.
you, Kendra. Moving right along with Matthew Ferguson, our Deputy Superintendent, on academic updates.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
As we stay focused on making sure that every child has the ability to read, write, calculate, and graduates with college and career readiness, y'all may be asking what we've been doing for the last month. And so I wanted to update you on 3 initiatives that have happened since we last met. The first is we are remaining focused on high-quality instructional materials and the textbook adoption. Your job is done. You have approved the list. Our districts are working through the selection. But we at the State Department have shifted from the selection of those materials to the implementation, because a textbook that sits in a closet or steadies a desk never taught a single child. And so what we have been thinking about and working on is how do we support our districts, how do we support our teachers in the implementation of those materials. And you may remember from a few months ago, we showed some NAEP data, and there were a couple of states that stood out, Louisiana being one. And we've been working with some partners who were in Louisiana in the implementation of their high-quality instructional materials. They came to South Carolina last week on Tuesday, I believe, and we were in Edgefield, South Carolina with Dr. O'Gorman and his team at Meriwether Elementary School, and it was really reassuring to be able to go last week to speak to some peers nationally and hear the folks who came into South Carolina say that what they saw in Edgefield, South Carolina was among the best implementations they have ever seen for what high-quality instructional materials could look like in the very short time that they've been doing it. And it was a place that we could point to as they are beating the odds, they are making a difference for their kids, and they are creating the lessons that we can learn in South Carolina to scale and spread that across the state. And so what we've also done in that time is we've brought together 120 of our coaches to sit in the same room to look at what high-quality instructional material implementation looks like, what it looks like to internalize a lesson, to think about how every teacher should not be curating their own curriculum, but should be implementing with fidelity and with skill those materials that the state has purchased, because often we don't have underperforming children. We have children who are undertaught, who are performing exactly at the level of instruction that they received. And so we will now be working with our district partners to roll that work out to them. We have 2 webinars scheduled in April and May to spread that message to our districts, to also plan for summer and a fall implementation of those new math materials that we're looking forward to. And then secondly, I'd also like to talk about math, because as we know that reading is the foundation that we all have to have. As Superintendent Weaver often quotes the Mary McLeod Bethune quote, "As I learned to read, the whole world opened to me." We have not forgotten about math. And so we also this past month had Shalini Sharma, who is the co-founder of Zern, speak to a group of district folks about how we're all math people, how we need to teach all kids to love math, and we need to stop saying we're not good at math, because maybe we just haven't decided to be good at math, and how we can improve the math scores and the math ability of our children in the state. And so we are really excited about what has happened in this last month, but are more hopeful about what is to come as we focus on providing a strong foundation for the children of South Carolina. And we won't stop until every child is on grade level. So thank y'all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for all you do. You know, there's a saying that all good things move on. Unfortunately for us today, we have a really good thing that has chosen to move on, and that's Delaney Hines. Delaney, you have been an outstanding board member. I was fortunate enough with so many of these to be able to come on and serve with you. You have a giving heart, and you love, and it's so apparent to all. So we want to thank you with this little memento to remember us by, and thank you for all that you have done for our board and for our students all across the state of South Carolina. So from our board and our State Department.
And I get to say, I knew her.
That is right. That is right. She has helped make us what we are today, and we appreciate that so very much. Well, at this time, is there any other business? Do any of our board members have anything to share for the good of the order?
Madam Chair, I do. You all got me good. Oh, my goodness. I would just like to say thank you for 4 years and I think 2 months. I came during the ending of the pandemic. I've seen 4 very wonderful and unique chairs come through, and I've met people. I've had an opportunity to grow, and I just want to thank you. When I came, Superintendent Molly Spearman was here, and I got to greet Superintendent Ellen Weaver. I want to thank God for each and every one of you that have touched my life, and I pray that I've had something good. I want to thank Senator Kevin Johnson and Circuit 3 for allowing me to represent Lee, Clarendon, Sumter, and Williamsburg County. I want to thank Dr. Janice Gamble. I don't know if she's on today, but If y'all see her, y'all can tell her. I asked her, I called her and I said, look, what am I supposed to do? Give it to me real simple. And she said, be an advocate for the children and the educators. And that was right up my line of wanting to, be a blessing to this group. I thank God for each and every one of you. Dr. Bathurst, when I came, you were, where Dr. Matt is. And I want to thank you for all that you have done for a portion of my delegation, Williamsburg County School District. Thank you, Madam Chair Allison. Thank each and every one of you for everything that you've done. And I want to end with saying, may God bless you and may heaven smile upon you. Thank you.
Same to you. Thank you. And please come visit us. Okay? Very good. Is there any other discussion or anything else to be brought for the good of this committee? If not, I just
make a motion to adjourn.
I have not finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When I raise my hand, you do that.
Apologize to the chairwoman.
No, I just want to thank all of you for your dedication and service to this state. You do a wonderful job, and thank you. God bless each one of you. And thank all of you for being here with us today, showing interest in all. Don't forget your travel forms. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Very good. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise. God bless and be safety.